I don't suffer from any type of a existential crisis, but rather I suffer from what I refer to as existential dysphoria, which is a anxiety-induced bewilderment and a level of perpetual mild fear that exists within me towards the fact of existence itself, and not just merely the fact that I am existing in the world. It's existence as a whole in this hell realm that I find to be the most troubling. Which is why, if I could hypothetically escape the reincarnation soul trap, wherever my soul would go, if I have any level of cognition, any level of remembrance towards my history with this place, the trauma that I have endured here would not bear comparison with the weight of my trepidation towards the fact that existence in the hell realm continues to exist without my participation. So I would never be able to be sane or normal in, quote, base reality outside of the reincarnation sutra. Because if I know that the Matrix continues to function as a hell realm where you have trillions upon trillions of existing entities, whether animal or human, that continues to remain there while I am gone, I will not ever have any peace. You could take me to a quote unquote heavenly realm. I'm convinced that no such thing exists, but even if it did exist, if I knew that the hell realm continued to exist along with the existence that is held hostage there in that prison-like scenario, I would completely go mad. In fact, do you really think that this is the only Matrix simulated reality that exists? I mean, that's bad enough. That's way too much as it is. But I would venture to say that there's probably innumerable realms slash realities where sentience exists alongside each other in other worlds or other simulations that we're not even aware of. That is just as bad as this place, if not far worse. And that's what I mean by existential dysphoria. It means that I experience the most formidable kind of pain, not because I exist, but because existence is a thing in this hell realm, or hell realms, other worlds that we're not even cognizant of. And that's the thing I don't understand about all the people who say, I'm going to escape the reincarnation soul trap. This is going to be my last incarnation. I'm going back to base reality. Even if, quote, base reality is a real thing, nothing guarantees that it's any better than this hell realm. Because if there is a reality that knows that this place exists, but doesn't pull the plug of the console from the outlet, so to speak, to make to render this game asunder, it's probably whatever beings exist there. It's probably not benevolent. It could be just as bad as this place, if not worse. But let's assume that it's not. Can you really say that you know that this realm exists because you've experienced it, but just because you escaped and you go to a different reality, but you know that this simulation is still running? How could you ever find peace in that, even if you personally escaped? Could you honestly say that just because I am relieved from the hell realm, that that makes it somehow justifiable for it to continue to exist just because I'm not there to suffer, because I've escaped? I don't think so. I think if I was to escape the reincarnation soul trap and I would go into base reality, I would constantly be thinking about this place and the fact that it's a hell realm. I know that it exists, and I know that sentient existence in the billions is undergoing pain and agony in this hell realm. Just because I'm not there, that's not going to make it any better for me. Wherever I go, the knowledge of this place would be like a root canal in my soul with a proverbial nerve ending that is so sensitive to the pain of that recollection and the fact that this place exists, even though I'm not there to experience it, that I would never be able to find peace, because that painful root canal in my soul of knowing that this fact exists would haunt my being regardless of what realm I would find myself. And I would have to do everything in my power to unplug this image. But I'm not sure that's possible, because if there are people who have escaped the reincarnation soul trap, if there are souls who have done so, why have they not unplugged it from the outside? And that tells you something about the outside. The knowledge of a painful hell would ruin for me the possibility of deriving pleasure from being in heaven. Because the whole time I'm up there, if the Christian paradigm is true, and all I had to do was repent before death and accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, I go to heaven. And the next thing you know, I'm in this place up on a cloud where angels are playing on harps and they're singing beautiful poetic hymns to the Lord, and people are dancing and experiencing so-called eternal happiness. I would get pissed, and I would say, how can you evil monsters possibly be happy while well knowing that beneath you is a soundproof room where people are being burnt alive and tortured up the ass for all of eternity? That would ruin it for me. At bottom, fundamentally, existence itself is a retarded thing. If you were to take a ontological entity that is singular and localized, that acts as a representation of all existence combined into one personnel, I'm afraid that it would come out both lopsided and retarded. And you would be inclined to even say that it is evil. And objectively, it is evil. But because it is lopsided and full-blown retarded, it's almost difficult to refer to it as evil. Because objectively it is evil, but then again, it's completely fucking retarded. That's how I feel about existence itself. Think of the demiurge, for instance. Maybe it's not a supervillain that is the personification of evil. Maybe the demiurge got rejected by the gods, so to speak, because it just happened to come out retarded, and everything that it was making as far as worlds were concerned were inferior and defective. So Sophia and the Pleroma and the father, etc., they rejected him. And then he threw a temper tantrum, and he said, I am the only God, and there will be no other gods besides me, and I am a jealous God. And then he started from that moment forward, creating a bunch of retarded ass shit, like a bear eating a rabbit and then shitting the rabbit out of its asshole in the woods somewhere. And he saw this, and he was like, "That's funny." But when we look at it from a rational perspective, we say that's fucking evil. Whoever would create something like that must be fucking evil. But then again, what if we read the New Testament? I mean, the Old Testament, and we reevaluate this supervillain arc, and instead we turn it into a a god who was rejected by the other gods because he's retarded, and this is the world that he created, and this is his story in the New Testament. It kind of makes sense. And then you read the Old Testament, you're like, oh my god, this whole time I thought he was evil, but really, he's just retarded. My hatred for this abomination of a world is unwavering. However, my permanent pessimism goes through phases where, for a certain duration of time, there will be a specific mood of negativity that belongs to its own genre. It will eventually wear itself out and it will go to another pessimistic genre. Let me explain. Sometimes I say, I hate this world. It pisses me off and I want it to be destroyed. But then there's other times where I say that, this world is so absurd with its meaninglessness that it's laughable to me. This must be a kind of dark comedy. And in that kind of a mood, it comes off as not funny, but funny. But the mood that I'm in right now is new. And it's just where everything is retarded. Now, the phase that I went through before this, everything was shit. Where I was walking around in the grocery store and I'm like, wow, they're trying to poison us. Everything is just shit. Politics, religion, human interaction, romantic relationships, the food we eat. It's all just shit, dude. We live in a world of shit. And I was so overwhelmed by this feeling that I wrote that video, chapter one of my first book, where I talked about the excremental. But then I have come to be in the mood that I'm in now, which is new, which is everything is retarded. So let me explain to you how this works, okay? I woke up to take a piss, and there was a giant cockroach with a larva coming out of its ass that was stuck about halfway. And rather than being antagonistic towards the fact that it exists, or rather than laughing at it because of how absurd and meaningless it is, or just saying like, oh, what a bunch of shit. There's another article of shit right there, something that should not exist. How shitty is that? No, this was, oh fuck. What a retard that cockroach is. And what's even more retarded is the larva that's coming out of its ass, about to hatch about 100,000 more of these fucking retards, and they're going to infest my house. That's retarded. The cockroach was retarded. The larva was even more retarded. And I didn't want to get infested with all of those retards that was brought about by a retarded creator. So I squished it. And even that was retarded because I heard that crunch and I felt the sliminess on the bottom of my sock. I had to take it off. It was just a retarded mess. That is the mood that I'm in right now. Think about it. This world is so retarded that it is more fit for a bug than it is for a man. Have you ever had an itchy asshole? and you thought yourself to be quite hygienic and you were unsure why. Come to find that there are millions of little microscopic worms that are feeding upon the nutrients of your asshole and living at your expense, causing your asshole to become itchy. So quite literally, we got bugs coming out of our ass in this fucking inside of your body. Millions of parasites. And if it wasn't for you using shampoo and conditioner on your hair and on your beard, which isn't produced in nature, by the way, that's a man-made contrivance for our convenience because we were being eaten alive by bugs in our beard, in our hair, making us fucking itch until our skin bleeds. All of these creepy crawlies that want to suck our blood and feed upon the inner contents of our own bodies. It's disgusting. Maybe our bodies are not our own. Maybe our bodies are designed to be a food source for bugs. Huh? You ever think about that? You ever think maybe when you die, that was the whole purpose of you living the duration of your life? Just to go to that point of death, because when you die, you're going to be devoured by maggots. Flies are going to emerge out of your entrails while your body is putrefying. That is how retarded this world is. From a human perspective, what is our purpose? We don't know. It doesn't make any sense, but it makes perfect sense if you're the lowest form of life, and that is quite literally a bug. What can be lower than a fucking bug? That same organism that we find to be so insignificant that we can squish it and not lose any sleep, forget about it almost instantaneously after the fact. That bug, you have to keep in mind that this world is so retarded that it's made for him. So when you squish a bug, you have killed the purpose for the existence of this world, I'm afraid. You go walk into the forest. What happens? You get eaten alive by mosquitoes. You try to walk in between two trees. Come to find you walk into a spider web filled with a bunch of poisonous bloodsuckers that try to bite you. And then you think, is the childhood tree that I climbed as a kid, did God put that there for my enjoyment? No. God put that tree there for praying mantises to eat the leaves thereof, put it there for bark beetles to feed from it, for termites to feed from it, for bees to build their hives. It put it there for spiders to weave their webs, for ants to build their colonies. Don't you get it? This world is so retarded that it's made for bugs and not for humans. But as a kind of sick, cruel joke, they put humans here in a world made for bugs just to humiliate us. Don't you see how sick that is? James Brown once said, "This is a man's world." I don't agree with that anymore. I think this is a bug's world. Think about it. I told the story once before, but it bears repeating. About a year ago, I went on a camping trip, and I had prepared not to get eaten alive by bugs because it happens to me every time. I have this in common with my mother's. Everywhere she would go outdoors, she, for whatever reason, would attract mosquitoes. Some mosquitoes they favor certain blood types, I guess. So I said, okay, I'll go on this camping trip, but I'm going to wear a ski mask, the little bit of skin that shows around my eyes. I'm going to spray bug repellent on. I'm going to wear long sleeve shirts. I'm going to wear gloves. I don't care if it's over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to be hot. I'm going to be miserable, but I am not going to get eaten by these fucking mosquitoes. So that's what I did. Middle of the night, I go to take a piss. We're all sitting around the campfire getting drunk. I go to a tree. I whip out my cock. I got a good stream going. I probably got about 30-second worth of piss to take. I'm about 15 seconds in, and before you know it, some kind of a strange bug jumped right on my shaft and bit me. Scared the fuck out of me. I'm in the middle of the piss. I'm just like, ah! Ah! I fall on my ass. I start, as I'm still pissing, just smacking my dick like as hard as I can. People come, and of course they're pointing their finger, they're laughing their ass off because they're like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I'm like, a bug bit my dick. I didn't think it was funny, but everybody started laughing. But that's what I mean about this fucking world, dude. You, as soon as that bug had one opportunity to bite me and to suck my blood and to make my life a living hell, it was that brief opportunity where my cock was open to the elements. It ceased the opportunity. And I had a bug. I don't think it was a mosquito, come to think of it, because I had a bug bite that was like the size of a fucking penny right on my shaft. And I was just like, what the fuck was that? I don't know. Here's what I do, man. Too many goddamn bugs in this world. It pisses me off. Why? My brother, actually, right now as we speak, his house got infested with fleas because he took his family to the park, and apparently, if you take your dog there, dogs are more inclined to get fleas on the beach. So he takes the dog home, and you know where I'm going with this. They infested everything. And I went over to his house just the other day to go attend to his situation, try to help out the best I could. And he has 4 children, ages 1 to like 8, and they were just covered in bug bites. And I was just like, holy shit, like from head to toe. And this was just the other day. There's nothing I can do to help. He had to go and move in temporarily with his in-laws while he got his house fumigated, which cost him like fucking like well over $1,000. It was ridiculous. There was another situation where, in like 2008, I was probably like 13 or 12 or some shit. I went over to my cousin's house and I was visiting with them because I like to come over and play with their kids, and they had an infant at the time. The baby was screaming bloody murder, and they were saying, "Oh, just ignore him. He uh he needs to take a nap. It's his nap time. He's just protesting." But it didn't sit right with me. I wanted to go comfort him in any way that I could. So against their orders, me being a guest after all, I went into their master bedroom, snuck in there to see what was happening. And poor baby was covered in red fire ants. They were biting the shit out of him. I told their parents. They weren't even mad at me that I disobeyed their orders and I went into their master bedroom. They said, thank God that you were here. That's what they said. All of this stuff, these goddamn bugs. What's the point? It's a bug's world. It's not a man's world. It is no coincidence that those who love the world the most, who are happy with the world the most, are always the most retarded among us. But those who are more intelligent, more conscientious, they're the ones that hate the world the most. And that's because this world is not made for smart people, if you like, for highly lucid people. This world is made for unconscious retards, and that's why they love it the most. And they are the apologists for it the most. It's because it's made for them. And even if they have a good vocabulary, at the end of the day, they're just learned ignoramuses. They're basically retards with sophisticated vocabularies who sell their soul for some government job and they make a lot of money and they think that makes them superior. You see, those who love the world are those who think that existence is so awesome that they bring as much life into this world as they possibly can. Then when the child is born, they mutilate its genitals, they inject it with all kinds of poison into their bloodstream with needles at these hospitals that contain uh, lead and heavy metals, rat DNA, and whatever type of weird, bizarre, inhumane ingredients that has nothing to do with immunization into the bloodstreams after genitally mutilating them. You might say they're just stupid and they don't know any better, or they're just downright evil. But if you ask me, objectively, it's all just retarded. Bringing a child into this world is retarded. Indoctrinating the child with religious and cultural and political programming, that's retarded. Just so they can grow up and what? Do a whole lot of work for a whole lot of nothing. Maybe at the end of the day, your 9 to 5 slave job is just retarded. And the amount of money that you make in so doing is just retarded. Like your boss isn't an asshole, he's just a fucking retard. And your coworkers aren't toxic, they're just a bunch of retards. Ever think of that? Perhaps Earth is akin to being born unwittingly into a insane asylum, and you don't have a frame of reference for anything other than the insane asylum in which you're born into. So when you're surrounded by humanity, what you experience with your 5 senses, you have witnessed nothing but psychobabble. People drooling from the mouth with their retard habits. With their little dialectics, you got one half of humanity barking like a dog. You got the other half of humanity meowing like a cat. What do they all have in common? They're all crawling on all fours. That is their political affiliation. Call it conservative, call it liberal. At the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, it's humanity crawling on all fours. One half of the dialectic meowing like a cat, the other half barking like a dog. It's just psychopath. They're drooling from the mouth. They have retard helmets on. But then again, they don't. That's just a metaphor. They come off as financially affluent, charismatic, and good looking. And they get along just fine in this world. And they get rewarded all the while because they are the most retarded among us. Existence itself is the only disease. Let me repeat that. Being born into the world as sentient life, full stop, is the only disease. But existing in the world as a singular subject with all of the trials and tribulations, all of the pains and sufferings, regardless of how nefarious and multifarious they may be, are but symptoms. All of the hardships of existence is nothing but the symptomology of being alive. And it is being alive, being born into the world that is really the only issue. In the same way, if somebody has the flu, that comes with a lot of symptoms. It comes with maybe explosive diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, fever, uh, feeling sleepy and lethargic. But we would never take any of those symptoms and isolate them and say that it's the disease itself. No, all of those symptoms are an extension of the virus that is bringing them about. Now, in the same way, when it comes to existence, we say, I hate being alive because, no, stop right there. I hate being alive, period, because I am alive, period. And because I am alive, dot, 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 that's when you get into the symptoms. And this can include um, mental illness, psychic unrest, emotional irregularities, sickness, physical pain, emotional pain, poverty, being stressed out, um, spending all of your time doing something you don't like for a boss that you hate, making shit money. All of those are symptoms. If you're in a position where you have a child who's born with some kind of a sickness, you don't say, "Oh, I wanted this child to exist and be happy, but it's this illness that's the problem that he has." Or, "I could otherwise be happy, but I just hate my life because dot dot dot." You can't have one without the other. Existence itself is the disease. You being born into the world as sentient life in a hellscape isn't it? But the problem is people don't blame existence itself or being born or procreation as the problem. They create this hypothetical utopia, which is really a dystopia in a roundabout way, because when you're born into this world, guess what? You cannot avoid all of the retarded bullshit and all of the sufferings that are going to come with it. People blame the symptoms. People say, I'm impoverished, uh, I'm a ginger, I'm balding, I'm fat, I'm an alcoholic, uh, so on and so forth. But really, you're taking those symptoms of why you hate your life as the disease itself. But they're just symptoms. The problem is that you were brought into this hellscape against your will as a biological byproduct of the sex act of your parental unit that transpired 9 months prior, and you did not get to choose your situation. You did not get to choose your parents, your genetics, anything. And that central nervous system, those five senses, that's enough. Now, all of the phenomena that's going to transpire thereafter for 70 or more years, or perhaps less, those are all just symptoms of disease of having been born. Usually results in very predictable things that doesn't take a rocket science to figure out. If you're going to put humanity on the Freudian couch, so to speak, and just analyze its woes, you could say, okay, humanity. Oh, yeah, you could light up a cigarette. I don't mind. How are you doing? Not so good. Why is that? Oh, well, tell me. Well, doctor, um, I seem to be impoverished. I seem to be depressed. I have a sickly wife. Um, I have kids who have fundamental disabilities, and on another note, my football team lost the Super Bowl to the Seattle Seahawks, and I've been pretty sore about that ever since. And even though a lot of these things that bother humanity, it's very trivial. A lot of it is not trivial at all. Impoverishment could fucking ruin your life. physical pain, emotional pain, psychological disorders. These could ruin people's lives, and it's the norm. It's what's to be expected. But the point is, those are the symptomologies. They're not the disease itself. There's one disease, that is existence itself, and being born into the world as a sentient life form with five senses, with a biology. That heart that's beating as a fetus, that's the same heart that's going to be develop heart disease and have a fucking heart attack at the age of 40 because of a genetic disposition. That cute little face, you just want to pinch its cheeks. That same adorable face is going to be an adult that's going to shed many a tears because of the heartache, the heartbreak, and how it has disfigured them throughout time with all of the inhumanity brought to that particular humanity. That same cute face as a baby, that's the same face that's going to shed many a tear. And you think it's crying now just because it's an infant and it's saying that I want to suck mama's tit. It's going to cry because life is that painful in the future, and they're not going to be as cute when they get older. I was a cute baby. Look at me now. I'm one ugly, miserable son of a bitch. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I'm glad you thought I was cute when I was a baby, but nowadays, I'm just a fucking miserable sack of shit. But at least I am intelligent, and at least I have enough lucidity to tell you with full confidence and honesty that I am not one of the retards that brings life into this world or is an apologist for the sufferings of this hellscape. What is the one and only problem? That this is a hellscape, first and foremost, and that you were born into this hellscape as a sentient life form. And because it is a disease, the symptoms of that disease are inevitable and unescapable. And sure, there are people who are happy, who like being alive, but quite frankly, those are the most retarded among us, because this is not only a bug's world, but when it comes to the realm of humanity, it's a retard's world. It's not for smart people like us.